B.J. Pack, the former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Pack. This is still, of course, an active investigation with so many unknowns, but let's talk about motive. Police say that the suspect claims he had a sex addiction, but there's also concern that the killings were racially motivated. How hard might it be for investigators to determine the suspect's motive, and what's the bar to potentially charge this as a hate crime?
Well, the investigation is ongoing. So, a lot of times the investigation turns up, prior statements that might be racially motivated. Those are half the things that they use to prove hate crime, both federally and also statewide. In the state context, there's really no need to prove that unless you want to get a sentencing enhancement. In federal context, if you want to charge a hate crime statute, obviously you need to prove that the violent act was motivated because of race. This has really rocked people to the core. I think people are afraid to go outside. I think it makes, if the evidence is there to support it, I do believe that the government, both either federal or state government, should really consider bringing a hate crime charge against the defendant.
When you were a federal prosecutor in this state, there were a rash of robberies against Asian American businesses and spas. Why do you think this community in particular was targeted? And why do you think that now we're seeing this rise in violence against Asian Americans across the country?
The violence and hate incidents against Asian Americans have been happening for decades. It's not just, it just so happens that the pandemic has really brought to the forefront, and the rise of social media and the fact that certain stories or videos could go viral, I think people are more aware of that. In the case that you mentioned, I think the motivation was based on a stereotype that Asian business owners carry around a lot of cash, they don't fight back, and these stereotypes were perpetuated by general media and things like that. So that's why they were targeted. I want to stress again that this is not really a new type of incident. This has been happening for decades. It's just that most recently we saw an escalation due to the pandemic and the rhetoric surrounding that. And there's a perception out there somehow people who are Asian Americans, particularly of Chinese descent, are responsible for the pandemic.
What has to change to stem this kind of violence? I know you're saying that it's nothing new, but certainly we have seen that escalation.
We have to start by cataloging it, right? And some of the states don't do a very good job. A lot of states didn't really, log hate incidents. I think that has changed a lot. In addition, we have to raise awareness this is going on. Culturally, many Asian Americans and Asians don't feel like they could report it and something will be done about it, right? They feel helpless. And as a result, community leaders and those of us, those institutions and outside of our Asian community who support fighting against hate incidents should learn about it and speak up when some of the people who are victimized are reluctant to do so.
And back to this case, police said that the suspect's parents contacted them to help identify their son from surveillance video. In your experience, how common is it for family members to do this kind of thing?
It's not that uncommon, frankly, because I think people know between right and wrong. I give kudos to the parents. I'm sure it was a very, very difficult situation for them as well. But I also want to commend the law enforcement officials for quickly apprehending a suspect.
And lastly, if I could ask you to take your legal hat off for a moment and just talk to us about your own personal concern about this heightened hatred against Asian Americans.
The theories such as the model minority myth and the way the Asian Americans were portrayed in mainstream media, I think that unless you know someone or are very close to someone and had conversations about their culture, they're going to rely on these stereotypes. We need to do a better job of breaking stereotypes and get to know a person and what makes them tick and understand them and where they come from to stop these type of incidents from happening. I personally, grew up in a town where there are not many Asian Americans. I too faced some hate incidents. A lot of times, those do not result in violent actions against me. But I know that there are several incidences and several occasions around the country where Asian Americans and Asian descent folks are facing or have been victimized by this, I encourage them to speak out. I encourage them to start cataloging this, and I encourage our Asian American colleagues to be advocates for perpetuating change and recognition. Do
you feel at all concerned for your own safety?
I personally do not, but sometimes I do wonder. I'll give you an example. I went to Stillman Park recently with my daughters, and a stranger recognized me, not necessarily because I was Asian, but because I was the former U.S. attorney here. But I didn't know who that person was, right? And with the rise in hate crimes and hate incidents, I was concerned. I was worried about what might happen. I shouldn't feel like that. But the fact of the matter is, because of the recent spike in these types of incidents, I think many of us are second guessing or even questioning our personal safety.
BJ Pak, we thank you so much for your time and your insight.
Thank you for having me, Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.